I found the whole thing very frustrating, to be honest. This fantasy game we're all having to play that Trump can suddenly get a peace deal when he couldn't even get Putin to stop murdering civilians. This is a man who refuses to put any pressure whatsoever on Putin. We have two sides with diametrically opposing views. Neither one has moved. So this idea that we're suddenly going to get peace is for the birds. We've got Putin, who is already occupying 3 European countries. We've allowed Russia to do this over 30 years, to just occupy 3 European countries and sit in them. Now we want to allow him to take even more of Ukraine because we are more afraid of fighting than we are of actual freedom. It makes me really, really upset. I'm a first-generation immigrant to this country, and I would fight with every fiber of my being. If there was a threat that came to these shores, I would do whatever it is I had to do. And that's what the people of Ukraine have done for their country. And instead of really supporting them, we've done everything in a completely half-hearted manner. And now we want to back away because it's too hard.
This is something I said yesterday on the show, Cora, which is that the truth is that the Ukrainians very, very nobly and very, very bravely, very, very courageously have been doing our dirty work for us. Because the truth is that Russia is a threat to all of Europe, and they have been bottled up thanks to a huge sacrifice of Ukrainian life, of Ukrainian resources, blood and treasure. They are the ones who've been keeping them at bay for us. And if it had not been for that effort, and if they had fallen quickly, if they had just surrendered, who knows where we'd be now?
That's exactly it. And we also underestimate just how much they are doing themselves to make Russia feel this pain. So all across October, there's been a spate of attacks on oil refineries. These are going incredibly well. Things in Russia are getting chaotic when it comes to people being able to access just gas to fill up their cars. There are regions in Russia right now that don't have any gas at all. If that continues, that is going to put serious pressure on Russia. The economy in Russia has slowed down. Every civilian industry is basically in recession, and even the defense industry now is struggling. They're having to put people on part-time shifts because they don't have the orders, they don't have the work. Russia can't keep this up forever. And if we just had the courage that Azerbaijan had without U.S. security guarantees, Azerbaijan, a tiny country right next to Russia. Yeah. But we in Europe, comfortable Europe, we don't have the courage. I don't understand, and it's so frustrating. And all that's going to happen is Russia's going to invade again if we keep being weak.
Cora, grateful for your thoughts on that, and much I agree with. I mean, we should bear in mind as well that according to the MOD, figures these are backed up by the Centre for Strategic and International Studies in the US. The estimate is that more than 1 million troops have been killed or injured, Russian troops, since the start of the full-scale invasion. 1 million casualties. 1 million casualties. That's injured or killed. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Russians killed. All of those graves, all of those weeping mothers next to young boys' graves. That has an effect. Russia is a dictatorship. Putin is powerful. But don't think that doesn't have an effect within Russia, even if they think they're fighting for the right reasons.
Good morning to you. I must say your program this morning has been really excellent.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's very kind.
I think one of the most important things that marvellous all the heads of government of Europe got together, but they've been too nice to Putin. Putin is a monster. He has got the blood of over 500,000 people on his hands. And it's about time we stood up to him. People say, oh, well, he'll drop a bomb or whatever. He will not. He has an estate on the Black Sea the size of Wales. He has a private army of 24,000. He's going to think twice about that. So therefore, my suggestion is let's make sanctions really work. The sanctions at the moment don't work. And there are two areas which will really hurt him. One is cut him out of the Bank of International Settlements. That means he can't do any business. Second, make sure the oil he sends is stopped one way or t'other. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit verbose, but I really feel very strongly about this.
No, I completely understand, and I agree with you, Christopher. I mean, one thing that I'm sort of surprised about, in a way, for all of the talk of Trump potentially levying extra sanctions. To some extent, I'm surprised that there are any extra sanctions to levy. I mean, there ought not to be. I mean, for all of the talk of being punitive and tough on Russia in during the outbreak of the war, the fact there are still potentially more sanctions to impose, to me, is astonishing. And the fact that, and this has been something much talked about, particularly over the last 12 months, all of these Russian assets which are in European bank accounts, they should have been seized. They should have been seized and given to Ukraine, given how exceptional the circumstances are.
Quite agree with you. Quite agree with you. We've been far too decent to this man. I mean, when this man came down the steps of the aircraft in Alaska with a silly smirk on his face, I mean, there was Trump there, and I might as well have a bunch of flowers to give to him. This man is a monster, and we're not treating him as a monster. And I really feel that sanctions have got to be done in such a way that really work. People say, oh, he'll drop the bomb. He won't. The man is a monster, and he's a coward to boot.
Russia.
Yes, not so wonderful Russia.
Not so wonderful Russia. I'm actually thinking more macro level, and even going back to the 1980s. With the situation with Afghanistan, I wonder whether he's still trying to make up for that, because he was a KGB officer during the 80s, and I think that was one of the deepest humiliations they ever suffered. And I think he's looking to reclaim some of that. I mean, yeah. I've known people to do stranger things for less.
Well, we were talking about this on the show yesterday, Andrew. I mean, when we think about the origins of this, people talk about NATO expansionism and all that. It's not that. What this is a deep... Putin may be many things, and most of them, as Christopher's saying there, are almost unspeakable on the radio. I don't think anyone could doubt. I don't think anyone could doubt his patriotism to the point of jingoism. Right? He is someone who is motivated by deep historical forces, and he believes that the Russian nation has been slighted. And he is acting out of a sense of deep humiliation after the end of the Cold War. He's the guy who says, we in the West, we say, wow, the way the USSR was dissolved so peacefully, that's a great thing. He's the one going, no, it wasn't a great thing. It was a disgrace. It was a humiliation. We should have been like China and sent the tanks into Berlin. That's this guy. That's the guy we're dealing with here. And he's trying to address what is, in his mind, a 30-year historical wrong. And that's tough.
Well, I think when you carry a grudge for that long, I think anything is possible. And so, yes, I mean, you can't take his threats maybe to heart, but you should take them seriously.
Also, they say, and again, Kremlinology is a dark and difficult art, but they say that he also changed a lot during the COVID period. He was so isolated. You remember those pictures of him, only meeting someone down the sort of longest of long banqueting tables, like looking like Howard Hughes or something, completely and utterly isolated. They say he changed lots of people changed during COVID, but most people don't have access to 10,000 nuclear missiles. So not completely ideal. But they say he changed a lot in that time. How do you think Trump's handling him?
Terribly, because I thought the Alaska thing the other day, it felt more like, when I saw him come down the stairs, it felt like the deal was already in. It had already been decided. There's no negotiation. I truly believe we don't think in 50 to 100-year strategic views, whereas Putin does. So he's quite willing to take however long it takes. And we think within, the 4 or 5 year political... we think in the 5 year political...
Electoral cycles.
An electoral cycle, exactly. So going up against that, it felt like there was a distribution of political spheres happened that day. Yeah. Whereas Trump said, we'll have Europe and you can have all of your old satellite states, let's make some money.
It's another spin, basically. Trump's trying to do this deal or whatever with Putin, saying about the land grab, land swap, etc. Now, fully commending all the Ukrainians for their bravery, and the amount of lives that have been lost is unbelievable. But can you imagine another spin on it, okay? Say Russia invaded America, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, they controlled, say, California, New Mexico, Alaska, okay? And then the other say peacekeepers came in and said, okay, well, what we do, we can if we give Russia, Alaska, California, New Mexico, and then the war will stop. What are the Americans going to say to that?
Well, I mean, America, I'm just trying to sort of... I mean, the truth is, of course, we'd all be dead because it'd be a nuclear exchange.
Yeah, but this is my whole point. It's like, why should the Ukrainians give up their land?
Yeah, well, indeed.
To somebody who's invaded their country. They've fought so hard to keep what they've got.
What they're being asked to accept, Andy, is basically living in another era, right? They're being asked to accept living in an era of 19th century imperialism where, basically might did equal right, and countries, including our own, went around the world and said, we quite like a bit of your country, we'll have a bit of that, please. Well, why should you have that? Well, it's because we've got bigger guns than you, and that was it. Now, we thought we'd move beyond that in the late 20th century and the 21st, but apparently, in Vladimir Putin's mind, the sort of new Tsar, we haven't.
No, it's absolutely disgusting, and I can't believe that the leaders that are supposedly involved, they should grow a backbone and back Zelenskyy up and say, look, this is not going to happen. Because all Trump wants, Mr. Cheeto himself, all he's going to want, he's interested, or I thought he did a deal with Zelenskyy on part of the land that he was going to secure it because they did a deal, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they did it at the Vatican, believe it or not, when the Pope died, to say that he would sign over so many minerals for certain American protection for certain areas. Yeah. I can't remember the exact part of it, but like I say, if you can imagine America had been invaded by Russia, Russia had taken so many parts of land, and then they said, okay, well, we'll do a deal, and you can keep that bit, and that'll be it. But I just don't think they just need to grow a backbone and say, no, it's not going to happen. And
do you trust Keir Starmer to have that backbone, Andy?
No, not at all.
No? Why not?
No.
Why not?
Because he just bends over backwards. He's just licking the feet of a certain Mr. Cheeto.
Okay, Andy, in Ascot, grateful to you.